tells us. The Prophet, peace be upon him, however, in order to avoid a possible confusion of his sayings with the Quranic text, remember, we have what the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, and we have what we have said as a revelation from the Quran. There is a difference between both. The words of Muhammad is not the Quran. It's different. The Quran is the word of God. The words of Muhammad, peace be upon him, is hadith or traditions of the Prophet, peace be upon him. They cannot confuse, we should not confuse them. We cannot take a hadith or tradition of the Prophet and insert it in the Quran or put it in the Quran. No, this cannot be. So the Prophet, peace be upon him, to avoid any possible confusion of his sayings with the Quranic text, didn't encourage his companions to write down what he said. He didn't ask them to write his own traditions or what he said. But of course, some of them, for their own references, might have written some traditions. But it's not like the Quran, everyone is permitted write and even distribute. No. Why? To evade any confusion between the Quran, the word of God, and what Prophet Muhammad said, the word of Muhammad is here. So this made its recording, the Sunnah, more difficult, of course, because it's not recorded the time totally. Some of them only have recorded some. But this difficulty in recording back the traditions of the Prophet peace be upon him was the price Muslims had to pay for keeping their holy book, the Quran, and questionably authentic and nothing inside except in the Quran, except in the word of God, the revelation from Allah. But we should remember the formidable influence and authority of the Prophet, peace be upon him, not only on individual Muslims, but also in the actual shaping of their entire society, were strong enough to enable later generations of Muslims to verify what Prophet Muhammad has said or done. And to be honest, an extraordinary effort was made by Muslim scholars to collect the sayings of the Prophet, peace be upon him. And actually, this collecting the traditions of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, there is a huge effort that has been done. Really, it's unimaginable. That we have science, certain what we call the science or certain branch of science. We call it the science of men. What's the meaning of science of men? Mean the people who narrate or who reported the saying of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. For example, this was a companion of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. You need some water? Please. So, we have this person who might say that he listened to his father narrate or say something that the Prophet, peace be upon him, had said. So, who's that person? Where he was born? Who's his father? Okay, he said that he listened to a certain scholar that the Prophet, peace be upon him, has said. Okay, when he was born, and that scholar, when that scholar was born, was it really he was in the same period or not? Because I might say, for example, I listened to Ahmad, he said that the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, okay, does Ahmad was in the same period, in the same lifespan like me, that he teach me or not? So the scholars of Islam sit down and say, and compare, is it really? Oh, no. He was born 5 years after that scholar passed away. How come he said he listened to him or he studied upon him? So this is false. Don't listen to that person. And so on and so on and so on. And there are certain stories which might be some of you have heard, that we have somebody who collected these traditions of the Prophet, peace be upon him. He traveled from a far place like Mecca to a far place like Syria. You can imagine by that time, no airplane, no car, whatever, it might take 1 month or even 3 months. He traveled from Mecca to Syria because he knows that there is somebody there who said that he listened from the Prophet, peace be upon him, or he listened from his father that the Prophet said such and such. So he goes all this way to meet with him. And of course, when he reached the city, he asked, where is so and so? They said, oh, this is his house. And he find a man beside that house. He has like a camel, and he has some food in his hand or in a certain sack or whatever. And he tried to ask the camel to come eat, because the camel was far away from him. So when the camel came, he catched it, but he didn't offer food. So actually the man, when he said that, he asked him, can I meet so and so? He said, I'm so and so. So he turned away. You didn't talk to me. They say, come, what, you ask about me and then you go away. What happened? They say, I have been told that you say the reports or the traditions of the Prophet peace be upon him. You have listened to your father or whatever. And I come to listen to you and to take from you to write what you have. They say, why not? I really have. They say, no, but I have seen you lie upon the camel. You offer the camel the food, and when the camel came, you catch it, and you didn't offer the food, you lie upon the camel. How come I know whether you lie upon me or not? And he didn't listen or record from anything. So this is how it was so meticulous that the scholars or the Muslims were so keen to, how to say, to register or to be, how to say, about these sayings of the Prophet peace be upon him. It's not just anybody say, I hear the Prophet say, okay, I hear. No, it's not like that. They really study, they really so careful when it comes to recording the sayings of the Prophet peace be upon him. One of the means of verification is the faculty of memory, as we say, and it was really indeed a noteworthy attribute of the Arabs. It is worth mentioning that some companions of the Prophet peace be upon him also, as we say, wrote down some of his sayings for their private use and quoted them when necessary. These early records also helped somehow in the compilation of the books of the Sunnah. So now we know that the first source of the Shariah is the Quran, the second source is the Sunnah or the traditions of the Prophet Muhammad. Now we come to another source of the Shariah, which we call Ijma'. So Al-Ijma' can be defined as the consensus of opinions of the companions of the Prophet peace be upon him, and the agreement reached on the decisions taken by the learned jurists or scholars on different Islamic matters. The consensus of the scholars must be based on the Holy Quran and the Sunnah. Again, the Ijma', the third source, must depend upon the Sunnah and the Quran. The Muslims will not make this Ijma' or consensus upon something which oppose the Sunnah or the Quran. They will always follow something which has a certain background, has a certain basis in the Quran or the traditions of Prophet Muhammad peace be upon him. Just as an example, we have a consensus of having a leader for Muslims. For all these centuries, Muslims have what we call the Khalifa. From the time after the death of Prophet Muhammad peace be upon him, up to the 20th century, we have a Khalifa. It's how to say, maybe from, he was in a certain country, maybe after that another country take a lead, and so on. And the last Khalifa was in Turkey, in Istanbul, and the Khilafat was abolished in 1924 at that time, 1924. So the last Caliph for Muslims in 1924. And to be honest, up to date, many Muslims still have that idea that we really need to have a Khalifa. A Khalifa means a leader that all Muslims will listen to him, a certain figure that Muslims will follow, instead that they don't have somebody to follow. This somebody say, oh, that and that and that. No, we need really to have a Khalifa. Maybe the Khalifa, some people might think these days, doesn't need to be really an executive ruler, but just as a figure, as a spiritual figure that the Muslims will follow if they say something. So this is one of the things that the Muslims have consensus about. One of the things. We have the other source of the Islamic law, Al-Qiyas. Al-Qiyas is the legal principle introduced in order to derive at a logical conclusion of a certain law on a certain issue that has to do with the welfare of the Muslims. Al-Qiyas should be based on the Holy Quran, the Sunnah, and Al-Ijma'. The previous three resources. Just to give an example. We know, we just mentioned at the beginning, that we have the zakah. The zakah, for example, supposed to be paid by an adult person. Adult person is rich, he has money, he should pay the zakah. So what about if we have a child, he is an orphan, but he's so rich, he has a lot of money. Will he pay the zakah or not? Actually, there is no tradition of Prophet Muhammad peace be upon him, or there is nothing in the Quran mentioned about this case. So the Muslim scholars make this al-qiyas or analogy. As long as the zakah is a must in the money which the adult person has, it's also for the money of the child. As long as he's so rich and he has, and we have somebody like a trustee who control that money. So it's the how to say, the task of this trustee to give the money of the zakat from the money of that child. Another example. We have a hadith and tradition of the Prophet peace be upon him that a killer will not inherit. Like for example, we have a father and a son. The father is too rich. The son really is in a hurry. He killed his father to inherit the money. If he is a killer, he will not inherit. There is a tradition of Prophet Muhammad that if the son, for example, killed his own father, or if the nephew killed his own uncle to take the money, no, he will not inherit anything. So how about if somebody, for example, I make a will that somebody will have some money, a will, he will not inherit. Somebody, I give a will that he will take 1/3 of my property after I pass away, and that person kill me. So what's the position? Oh, there is no tradition in the Prophet. There is nothing in the Quran about this issue. Oh, so we try to make analogy with the first case that a killer will not inherit from his own father or from his aunt or from his uncle. So same thing, a killer will not take his share in the will because he killed to get the money. This is what we call analogy or contrast. So these are the basic sources of the Islamic law. Al-Quran saying Prophet Muhammad, or the Sunnah saying what he did, what he agreed upon. Al-Ijma', the consensus of opinions of the scholars. And Al-Qiyas, which is some sort of analogy between this and we have what we call, when we discuss about the Islamic law, what we call the schools of thought. The school of thought is the usual translation of what we call al-mazahib. Al-mazahib is the Arabic word, which indicates some different interpretation of the sacred texts in Islam. In most works in Islam, the term al-mazahib has become identical with the Shariáh. Each mazhab was established by a well-known Muslim scholar. Of course, as we say, we have the Quran, we have the traditions of the Prophet peace be upon him. Clear. But there are certain texts, whether in the Quran or the traditions of the Prophet peace be upon him, which might have different interpretation. This is language, right? So we might have some different interpretation about this or about that. From this different interpretation, we have these different schools of thought. There are famous, 4 schools of thought established by well-known Muslim scholars. We have the Imam Abu Hanifa, founded the Hanafi school of thought, or Hanafi Mazhab. Imam Malik established Maliki Mazhab. Imam Shafi'i established the Shafi'i Mazhab. Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal established the Hanbali Mazhab. So we have 4 famous schools of thought in Islamic law. Each scholar, he has his own way of thinking or understanding of the religious text. And we have some of his own followers who explain more and more and more. And some people, oh, I listen to this opinion, I think this opinion is more applicable. I really, how to say, I like or I understand this more, or I am convinced of this opinion more than that. Of course, we say that we have 4 schools of thought, or 4 mazhab, which are very famous. But of course, we have other well-known scholars who have their own way of understanding, their own way of interpretation, but they are not well-known or famous or have many followers like the main 4.